Welcome to another episode of The Seven Living with the Planets. For a minute, I was like, what podcast is this? This is The Seven. This is where we talk about planetary magic. And today I'm talking about Mars and desire and how um we kind of like a lot of spiritual people become a little bit impotent in our lives because we shun the Mars archetype. And so I want to talk today about what that looks like, what we can do with it, how Mars can actually serve you in a major way, and why it behooves you to connect with Mars. There's just a lot of, I think, anti Mars sentiment in the spiritual world because Mars is that drill master. A lot of the stuff in our culture that I think a lot of us are pretty tired of, pretty over it. This idea that like productivity is what gives you your worth and your value. That's sort of a distortion of Mars, though. So I want to say that it's also wanting. Mars burns with desire. Mars is hot with desire. Mars is just the desire is what drives Mars to go out and go out and do, go out and, like fight for what it wants, for what he wants. And so there's a lot of, we can become really passive. And I think that with everything, as I'm always preaching on this podcast and everywhere all the time, it's all about balance and discernment. And I'm just, I'm all about that middle path. How can we take the boons from the Mars archetype, and use them to our advantage without getting it twisted, without getting too tied up in productivity as value, without getting too tied up in having to like do everything for ourselves and always having to be in conflict. So the thing is that if you find that it's like hard for you to initiate things, make things happen, like if you spend a lot of time thinking about things and have a hard time just like getting things done, Mars can be extremely helpful. Mars can be a really, really helpful archetype to work with. There is like that drill sergeant side of Mars that sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that drill sergeant to be like, get up off your butt, do the thing that you said you were going to do, and like let's do it, let's get it done. Mars is, it's the sword of like slicing away the bullshit sometimes, because if you don't ever take action, nothing ever happens. So letting desire fuel us into motion, right? It's like the desire fuels the motion. And so we often have this fear of like intense desire. We have this fear of like lust and ambition and anger. There's anger in Mars, and we want to shun anger. We're taught like the spiritual world right now is very much like about peace and love. And those are beautiful things, but that can turn into passivity and resentment and confusion and this like impotence, right? Mars is not impotent. An impotent person is out of alignment with Mars, right? There's an imbalance there. And so Mars has intense desire. Mars is in motion. Mars pursues, right? You're in pursuit of what it is that you want. There's always something that you want. The sword is pointed at something. With Venus like receives, and you're just sort of open and you're surrendered. It's a surrendered posture. To receive is to be surrendered to taking things as they come. But in Mars, it's about penetrating the world with our desire. And so we fear aggression. We fear domination, right? Domination. That's the word. That's what it is that we're afraid of. We don't want to be dominated, and we don't want to dominate others. But I will say that that is not a balanced Mars. Domination is not a healthy emanation of Mars, right? That destructive, domineering, abusive, impulsive, like that is not the Mars that we're trying to build a relationship with. So the medicine of Mars is to, be really clear in our boundaries, to be really clear in our desires, to seek our desires, to move in the direction of our desire and to follow that and let it lead us and guide us and allow it to, be like an organizing principle in our lives. And that doesn't make us selfish. It doesn't make us greedy. It just gives us an arrow, a place to direct our focus, our ambition, our energy, directing our energy toward something and having clarity around it. So I just think that the Mars archetype is a really beautiful one, and I think it's a really helpful one. I think that I am naturally a very, like, Mars-oriented person. I like to have, set really high expectations, and there's a lot of, like, willpower that goes into Mars, and I'm totally guilty of when I'm talk about Saturn, saying like, "Oh, all that stuff you're afraid of in Saturn, that's actually Mars. Mars is the bad guy here, not Saturn." And so now I need to just come back around and say that the disciplinarian is not bad, right? It's helpful. It's actually really helpful to like whip you into shape. Get her done. Do what you want to do. Create the life that you want to create. Go out and do it. Ask for what you want. So I recently did a Venus episode where I talked a lot about asking for what you want. And there's a way in which that's also a very like martial thing to do. But Mars doesn't just ask, right? Mars goes and seeks. Mars goes out and gets. Mars takes action, directed action, strategic action to create the worlds that Mars wants to create. So I think that, we do want to be really conscientious of not making that we have to be productive. We have to be a drill sergeant. We never want to tie our value as humans is intrinsic. It exists no matter what happens, no matter what we do, no matter what. We have value by virtue of existing. We are living beings. We are each a universe unto ourselves, and we deserve rights. We deserve our humanity. We deserve the things that we need to survive. We deserve love. Just by virtue of existing, we deserve love. Period. As soon as we tie our value or our sense of worth into something external, whatever it is, we set ourselves up for failure. We set ourselves up for, because then as soon as that thing comes into question, now it's not just questioning that thing, it becomes about us. It becomes about what we are, who we are. It's very, things can like hit us in really deep, hard ways when we think like, "Oh, I'm only worthwhile so long as I support my family financially," or, "My value is in my beauty," or "My value is in my productivity. My value is in how much I give to others." No, right? Your value is in your existence. And so we have to decouple that. And when we decouple that, we can play much more cleanly in the sphere of action. So I talk about this because it's just prevalent in our culture, and it gets very twisted for us spiritual people because we tend to really think that like giving is what makes us valuable, and our compassion and our empathy and our love and our, even like our connection to source, our spirituality is what makes us worthy. And it's none of that. It's just our existence. It's our pure raw essence that makes us worthy. And, in a way, Mars is pure raw essence. Mars is seeking. It's the seeking spirit. It is like the fire in your soul, because there is a spark within all of us. There is a spark of desire. It's almost like we come into existence with a mission. Sometimes we get disconnected from that. We get in this like murky space of disillusion and disconnection and confusion and thinking in the hall of mirrors and like thought loops and we lose touch with our bodies. And Mars doesn't spend a lot of time like analyzing. Mars is not analyzing our feelings, okay? Mars is not like really even feeling the body so much. Mars is exercising the body. Mars is like, let's get up and move. Let's get up and dance. Let's run. Let's walk. Let's like, go to the gym, eat healthy, diet well, take care, right? Keep clean, maintain your space, be ready, be on guard, protect yourself. So it's very like animalistic. It's very earthy, but not in like not even it's not that it's disembodied, but we're not even on the spectrum of embodiment or disembodiment with Mars. I mean, Mars is masculine, so it is going to naturally lend itself towards like the mental realms, right? But it's like we're just doing. We're just doing with Mars and we're not overthinking and we're not analyzing and we're not getting like swept up in our emotions and letting that rule the day. And a lot of us need that guidance. We need the discipline because sometimes we allow our emotional state or our mental state or our psychological state to derail us from our mission. And sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes we have to take care of ourselves. And so, but it's all about finding the balance, coming into discernment of having certain things that are non-negotiable. Like, no, I am going to show up for myself in this way, unquestionably. And what happens when we do that, when we let Mars sort of give us that framework, and there's a structure to it, right? It's like this is non-negotiable. It's happening every day. Every single day I'm going to go for a walk, or every single day I'm going to take a cold shower, or every single day I'm going to do this thing, and it's usually for your body or for your health or for your mission. Then what happens is it actually can take you out of the spiral. It can actually support those things that feel like they have to take over and take center stage and everything has to kind of like fall away. Like we kind of sometimes, I think that, emotions are so important. Of course they are. We have to feel them. We have to let ourselves go there and feel them. And we cannot let them rule our lives. There is great wisdom in understanding that, yes, we feel them. Yes, we honor them. And no, we're not going to bypass or gaslight ourselves. And at the same time, we also have to show up and do our duty anyway. We have to, and sometimes that is what can carry us is if we do like force ourselves to just do the thing, because it breaks us out of the like that state of I can't, and like it helps us get perspective. Okay, it gives us both perspective because it's like, no, I can I can, right? I can do it. Even if I'm hurt, even if I'm sad, even if I'm down, even if I'm in this like loop, I can know. Like it's like, okay, we focus and we do the thing. And so that can actually be really helpful. Now, on the other side of that, if you take it too far, that's a problem, right? You can't always just force yourself to go, 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 go. So it's the balance. It's the balance of the two. Feel your feelings and still work, still function, still do what needs to be done. Activate your dharma, go after your passion, fight for what you care about, fight for your mission. What's your mission? What's your duty? What's your dharma? And maybe you don't even know. And so maybe the first mission is finding your mission, right? But maybe it's so simple. Maybe it's like keeping your job and taking care of yourself, keeping your help, supporting your family, and maybe supporting your family with your job, maybe supporting your family financially, maybe supporting your family by being a stay-at-home parent. It doesn't. I'm not saying there's like a right or wrong way. There absolutely isn't. It's really just about showing up and trusting yourself, empowering yourself to be able to show up, that you are able, that you can do it, that you can push through, that you have the power, that your will is strong. And that's how you build capacity. That's how you build power. So I think about Mars a lot with capacity. What I'm talking about is capacity, the capacity to show up anyway. They call it anti-fragile. Mars teaches us to be anti-fragile so that we can experience things fully and still hold our center, still come back to ourselves and not get washed up on the shore of our emotional, tantrum. And then we're a beached whale, right? And we can't get back to the ocean and swim around with our friends anymore because we've been beached. So weird metaphor that came up. But I grew up on an island, and every couple of years, a whale would wash up on shore, and it's really sad because nobody wants to see a dead whale. It was really sad, and people would always go and we'd like look at it, and eventually it'd start to smell really bad. Um, I mean, the whole island would smell. It was like you could smell it like just everywhere. Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry. Total digression. The point that I'm trying to make is that, you know, you have the power to hold yourself and keep going. And so Mars gives you that. Mars helps you through. Mars is the arrow is pointed in the direction, and you are taking steps, and you're having the discipline, and you're showing up anyway. And through showing up anyway, you are seeing both that you can do it, which is extremely empowering, and also it breaks you out of your own kind of drama, your own self-pity, your own, um, loops that you're in, your own pain, right? Because you can direct it into doing something, achieving something, and then you get the reward of having achieved something, which is an amazing reward that Mars gives us. So, I wanna really encourage you to, you know, dance, play with this Mars archetype. And especially if you're somebody who feels like it's not spiritual enough, like, especially if you're someone who has a tendency to sort of reject the masculine, because healthy masculine is extremely supportive. Healthy masculine is clean and clear and direct. Um, and I hope that this has been helpful, and I just want to encourage you to a really great way to work with Mars is to exercise your body. Exercise your body in a new way. If you already exercise your body, you can just really feel like, hey, Mars, I'm doing this for you. Stay safe, stay within the healthy bounds of what your body can handle. I have been known to exercise to the point of vomiting. I do that surprisingly often. It's completely unnecessary. I don't recommend it. Like, really thinking about what's the next, like, where are you now in terms of your activity, and what's something you can do a little bit more. Maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's stretching, maybe it's going to a yoga class, just letting yourself do that and do it for Mars. Thank you so much for watching.